Hey, good morning, folks. Colton Woods here with your Monday morning motivation. And this morning, I want to talk about harmony. Now, this is something I've put a lot of thought into over the last week. It's something that I'm going to do my best to bring together for you guys. And right before I started this video, I looked up the definition of harmony. And I really wish one of my cousins lived closer because he's actually a music director. And so when I looked up the definition for harmony, all of it was music related. And one of the most basic one was the combination of individual music notes to create a chord. And I was like, well, dang, that's horsemanship in itself right there, because so many times we talk about chords, which are the final result of the combination of the individual notes, which would be like our maneuvers such as our flying lead change, piaffe, passage, sliding stops, turnarounds or spins, rollbacks. Be able to a big combination or a big chord could even be being able to compete an entire Grand Prix course, right? That could be a combination of individual pieces. A lot of times you guys will hear me talk about cooking and how the final product of baking the cake, that chord is the cake, but we have to have their individual notes or our ingredients. We have to have quality ingredients with the proper processes to then progress to that thing, because particularly with baking, there's not much room for kind of going outside the lines as much because of the way the chemical reactions work. Fortunately, with horsemanship, we have a little bit more of a creative license, if you will, to work with our horses and fit the horse, fit our styles, try new things, just because our horses are so much more adaptable. They may be a yeast and flour and eggs. Those things are going to work together relatively similarly. But guys, with harmony this week, I want to draw on two different stories from this last week. I don't want to go on too long for you guys, but the first story was I was listening to a podcast. Many of you guys would be familiar with Joe Rogan, and he had an athletic trainer, a guy that trains guys that fight in like the octagon and stuff like that. And they were talking about the psychology of training these fighters, and it was so much like training our horses. And they got on the topic of harmony, which kind of spurred this thought for this Monday morning motivation. And I'm going to try to go back and find the video. I had trouble finding it before because I wanted to rewatch it real quick. But basically, this guy was sharing that he was prepping a fighter just like we'd be prepping a horse for a competition. He was prepping this fighter, and he put him up against somebody that wasn't, and he put him up against somebody that was really good, but he kind of told the guy on the side to go easy. And because he needed to get this guy's confidence, because he was in his own head and he was having trouble getting his own confidence and getting out of his own way, essentially. And I know that we've experienced that with ourselves, and we've experienced that with our horses. And this guy is the trainer. He wasn't trying to physically prepare his fighter for this next upcoming match, because the guy was physically in shape and he had the moves and he had everything, but he had to have the confidence to reach his maximum potential. And so he kind of set up this sparring, as they would call it, and he did some. In the first round, his fighter that was preparing for the fight got his tail whipped, right? He put him in there and he was just getting knocked around pretty bad. So in the next round, he told this other guy, he's like, hey, just don't even hit him. And after the fight, the long story short is that after this sparring, the guy came out and he's like, man, I know that first round didn't go good, but that second round, I just couldn't miss. Like, I was on it. And the guy didn't even realize that the other guy didn't hardly try to hit him. And one is a huge testament to the guy who was a sparring partner for taking a beating to build this guy's confidence, but also the psychology behind the trainer to really do what it takes to mentally to get his fighter, or for our cases, for our horses, or maybe really I think the biggest impact will come is the people you work with, your family members, your friends, is that sometimes we have to do things a little unconventional to benefit the mental state. Because it's going to lead into our next story, but this trainer was smart enough and had the foresight to see that this guy already had the physical, but we had to get some confidence. And that's so much with our horses, because a lot of times, like, we do need to push ourselves and we do need to test ourselves. And pressure is not bad, because when there's pressure, we need to be able to channel that energy. When we find with our horses, a lot of times when we put pressure on our horses, we get reactions instead of responses. And I tell people a lot of times at clinics, I want to be able to put pressure on my horses, and I want them to lock in. I want them to be kind of like a fighter jet. I want them to go, okay, we're locked and loaded, we're ready to go, we're excited, and this pressure is something I can thrive on. It's energy for me, it's food for my mind. It's not something that I'm concerned about. But we have to do that in small incremental doses. We have to put a little pressure, take the pressure off. Add a little pressure, take the pressure off. And if the pressure becomes too much and they're lacking in confidence, we go do something to build their confidence, right? That fighter, he got his butt whipped on him the first round, and he was already lacking in confidence going into the fight. So his trainer made the decision saying, hey, asking that sparring partner, hey, can you do this for me so that we can get this guy's confidence up? Because that's the missing link to what he needs. And so just yesterday I was working with my wife, and we were jumping her horse around. She's a 6-year-old warm blood mare, really talented, jumps like a freak, moves like a freak, and by freak I mean very, very well. We've been progressing this horse for the last 3 years, and she hasn't really shown but just some small level stuff because she is so big. I mean, she's every bit of 18 hands. And so yesterday, we only jump her like once a week or so, because we need to get them broke on the flat and then use the jumping, see where we're at. And so yesterday I was helping her jump through some courses and try to make some turns and everything like that. And what I found was that the horse has gotten so very obedient to the aids, but then was almost listening too much, and that she needed to go do her job. And so I was working with my wife on, hey, get her prepared a little bit earlier and then leave her alone. And it wasn't so much about the physical aspect of jumping. It was more that the horse was listening so much that she would get to the fence the first couple times and she'd go, oh gosh, the fence is there, because she was so focused on Meredith riding her. And so I was like, hey, get her ready early. And then any adjustments you make coming to the fence, I want those adjustments to be making sure the horse is focused on what she's about to do, because she gets to the fence and she'll jump. The first couple of times she about jumped her out of the tack, because Meredith was trying to adjust her to get her just right before the fence, versus getting her right a little earlier, and then when getting up there saying, hey, here you go, here's your job. And once they started doing that, the mare started jumping a lot smoother, but then we kind of lost some of the form. And so what we went back in, and what we actually ended up doing was I kind of stepped up the difficulty level, because I needed Meredith to start riding a little bit more actively. Before the course was pretty easy. It was like a down through the turn, down the line, on the long side, come across, catch the diagonal. It was a typical kind of hunter-y kind of course. And so I kind of set them up on more of a jumper or a hunter handy / derby kind of course, which for all of our Western folks just means something with a lot more tight turns and a higher level of difficulty to get through. And what that did was, it didn't really change the horse up, but it made Meredith prepare earlier, and then she could leave the horse alone at the fence. And that was way more, the horse has the physical ability at this point, but it was way more about the mental preparation on the rider's side that I was trying to get her ready, because I was having to step the difficulty level up so that she goes, if I don't get this right, it could be disastrous. And of course we wouldn't set our horses up to get into a dangerous spot the best we can, but jumping does have its own dangerous aspects to it. But at the same time, I had to step up that difficulty level to raise it so that the stakes were high enough that they're going, gosh, we got to get this together, otherwise it's not going to happen. And it really became not so much about, because Meredith's not the most competitive person from rider to rider all the time. If it comes to football, college football, she is. But it was more about, if you don't ride this course and try to beat this course that I've set, you're not going to be able to get it done, because it's so difficult. And so that was more, it was way more than what she would have really been comfortable with, but enough to kind of build some confidence in her go. And then when we get done with it, she go, man, I see where that is. I see how that is. And so there's times where we have to go ahead and work more on the mental side than the physical side. And it's all in that harmony. It's putting together those individual elements. We were schooling yesterday with that horse. I was like, hey, if she gets a little out of whack, we're at home. Don't take her to the next jump. Just fix her up, work on that individual chord or that individual note, get that suppleness right, get the engagement right, and then find another fence that just happens in between. Trading horses over jumps is a whole nother topic that I'm pretty big on, and how we go about doing that. But guys, for this week on your Monday morning motivation, I want you guys to try to live your life with a little bit of foresight, look down the road, see. It's so easy for us to just to do it ourselves. I am totally that way, and it's something I have to work on all the time, because it can be easier to do it ourselves. But when we're working with our horses, we're working with a teammate in our work team or family or whatever the case may be, the fastest way to get to that harmonizing level where it's almost like you can read each other's minds is that we have to set things up, let people make the mistakes, let our horses make mistakes, and then just guide them. We're not there to do it for them, we're there to guide them. And that's where we can find that true harmony as we go. And we've got to have that vision down the road so that we can start to put together the pieces. We can live in the moment, but with the vision of where we're going. So, guys, that's Colton Woods Horsemanship with your Monday morning motivation. A little longer than usual, but I certainly hope you guys made it this far. If it hit at home with any of you guys this week, be sure to share it with your friends, family, other horse folks, and all stuff like that. We try to bring you one every single week here on Colton Woods Horsemanship, whether on our Facebook page, Instagram, or on our YouTube channel. So anyway, guys, Colton Woods Horsemanship. Y'all have a blessed week. We'll catch you guys later. Take care, guys.